So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again, and today I am switching out one of this style pathetic garage light with this 4-foot LED light bar. Now this is a hard wire, but I'm going to show you exactly how to change it out. As you can see, I have crap for light in my garage, and I'm hoping this is going to change that. One of the reasons that I've got this problem over here is because of my kayaks being stored up above. However, the one I'm going to change out is this one right here. I'm going to mount it from this point here and stretch it across, so hopefully that gives me a lot better lighting to this area. I'll also be doing a video on the install of the light fixture that I took down from that location and reinstalling it at another place in my garage to provide more light as well. And I'll have that video coming pretty soon. So I've got a work light here because I'm doing this at night. This is my garage light switch. I'm shutting it off. Now the only light I've got is my work light here. That power's off, so now we're good to remove it so we can switch it out. If you're not confident in that, you could also shut down the breaker. I needed to use an outlet in my garage to run the work light, so that's why I didn't do that. So if the globe is still on, you just unscrew the globe, take the light bulbs off. Next, I'm just removing the one screw that was holding this light fixture up in place. Now I'm carefully pulling the wires apart, making sure not to touch any bare wires, just so I can get to it to test it. In all honesty, it's better to use one hand to do this. So I know there's no voltage here because I shut the light switch off. However, if you want to double check yourself, grab a little multimeter, Harbor Freight special, less than 10 bucks. You want to have the setting on AC volts. And you're going to want to take the black lead and put it to the bare wire, which is your ground. Or you can put it to the white wire because that's common and it will not have voltage on 120. And then put your red lead to the black, which should be your hot wire. And as long as you have no voltage, you will be safe to do what you got to do. So one other safety thing that electricians do is they only use one hand when dealing with electricity until they're positive there is no voltage. So that's what I'm doing here. The reason for that is if you're using two hands, the electricity could go across your chest, which can affect your heart and other vital organs. Whereas if you use one hand, most likely it will go down your arm, down to your leg, bypassing your heart and other vital organs if you do get electrocuted. And now I'm going to hold it down here and I'm going to take off the common and we're going to pull that down. And right now I'm actually going to check our voltage one more time just to make sure that there's nothing here. Again, just being on the safe side of things here. So again, with the voltmeter on AC volts, I checked from my white wire common to my black hot and from my ground to both wires as well. So these are just some extra safe checks that I did to show you guys because I know electricity can be scary sometimes. So now you can touch it, nothing's going to happen. You might want to make sure you tell the kids and the wife not to touch the light switch when you're doing this because that might go wrong. So I've got my light here and I'm just taking off the cover that covers the wiring so we can see what we're dealing with here. There's two screws, one on each end. I pulled those off and then it just unclips out of here. Now that we've got that pulled up and out, right here, we've got our hot and our neutral. So most lights will probably come with the wire nuts. This one did. And then the ground, which is your bare wire, will go to that green bolt right there. Now, as I said, I want to mount mine off center. So you've got these little push outs here, okay? We do have one over here. I'm just using a screwdriver to pry it up. And then if you just bend it back and forth a couple times, it should snap off of there. So using the one screw that was holding the old light fixture, I'm going to go ahead and mount it up there using this hole. Now again, I'm using two hands because I know we have no power here right now. So this would have been way easier with two people. However, I'm a good multitasker. So I got my wires through the hole that we punched out. Now I'm starting the screw by hand, using the same screw and the same mounting hole that was in the original light. So I barely got the bolt started and then I looked up on top of the light fixture and made sure none of my wires were going to get pinched between the ceiling and the light fixture. Then I went ahead and tightened it down the rest of the way. For those of you who haven't watched my videos, density stud finders, amazing tool, the only way to find studs. So using the stud finder, I found 2 additional studs that I could anchor the light into. Then I grabbed my tape measure and I measured from my wall to the light fixture on both sides to make sure they were equal. So one of the studs I was able to use a pre-existing hole in the light fixture. The other one I went ahead and drilled a hole so I could hit the second stud to anchor it. After anchoring into the 2 studs, I went ahead and made sure the initial bolt I put up was pulled tight. So I stripped the wires in the light fixture back a little bit more so I can twist them around the wires coming from the ceiling to get a better connection. White to white, black to black. That's how easy this is. So I'm twisting the wires from the ceiling and the light fixture together. That gives it a nice strong connection. Then grab the wire nut and twist it onto the wires. I almost go where I cannot turn it by hand anymore. If you turn it by hand and it keeps spinning, that means you've got too big of a wire nut and you need to get a smaller one. I did that both to the hot and the common, or the black and the white. So being as though the ground stud is all the way in the center and that my ground is not going to reach, I'm going to take a Tek screw and just anchor my ground right in by where the other wires come out of the ceiling. The ground is just going to the housing itself. It does not matter what location it's at. So I twisted the wire around the Tek screw a couple times and then tightened it down. You want to twist it around clockwise with the direction you tighten the screw down. If you twist it counterclockwise, it might try and walk off as you tighten the screw down. Then I flip the light switch on and make sure it worked. So one other step that I do that's probably not necessary is I take some electrical tape and wrap it around the wires and the wire nut to kind of hold them together, just as an extra precaution. So I do a couple wraps on the wires themselves and then I work it up over the wire nut to hold the wires to the nut itself. Then one other thing I ended up doing is I pulled the wires out of the ceiling a little bit more, took some more electrical tape and wrapped it around the wires where they were going to be going through the light fixture around that steel edge, just to protect the wires from possibly rubbing and wearing through the insulation on the wire. Then I pushed the wires back up a little bit so the tape was protecting the wires from where it was going through the light fixture. And now I'm just tucking the wires up. When possible, I try and keep the hot away from the common. Again, it's not really necessary to do this, but when possible, I will fold them away from each other if there is room to do so. So now I'm just putting the cover back on the light fixture, snapping it up into place and putting the 2 screws back on, making sure that no wires got pinched between the cover and the housing. Now I'm just putting the lens over the light fixture, and there was 2 retaining clips to hold it from the lens falling off. And they just push up into place on each side of the light fixture. So here's one more before and after look for you guys. Hopefully this video gave you guys some good information. Hope it helped you out. If so, hit like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.